Welcome to Bothering the Band. My name is Ryan Bynek. With me, as always, is Abigail Ann Levy, and we have an amazing episode today. Comedian Billy Wayne Davis regales us with the most insane stories. This just press play, keep going. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Bothering the Band with comedian Billy Wayne Davis. I'd like to just dive right in. I mean, we'll probably cut some of this, but welcome to Bothering the Band. My name is Ryan. This is Abby, and we're fucking thrilled to have you, man. We're big fans of your work.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I first saw you on Last Comic Standing, of course, and then just stuck with it, and you know, you're doing great, man.
Well,
Fucking A.
thank you. That was I was always kind of, that was such a short thing that I forget it was blasted to so many places that, yeah, when people, and then Wanda and Paige, the EPs, Wanda Sykes, of course,
Mhm.
they were running it. Then they were very, very kind to me, and I forgot. So, and then people were like, "I saw you on that." I'm like, "Oh shit, what's on that? That is, yeah."
Oh, that's funny. Well, think about it. What year was that?
It was like 10 years ago, I guess, now,
Oh, it has to
because
be more than that.
maybe, well, I, do you want to, okay, do you want to know a funny story about it that I probably never told?
Absolutely.
Um, this is just, oh, this is, my wife loves this story because we weren't married yet either. And I say 10 years because I think that we were still living in this other place before we found the house that we live in now. And it's been about 10 years. So that's why I guessed, oh, that's a cool Expos hat. Um, so it was after the shoot, and they kind of locked us in that building for 5, 6 hours. It wasn't bad. I mean, it was a bunch of comedians, but we were on camera the whole time, even in the holding room, and then the way they did it. And then, so that was kind of whatever. But, and, they, I went up very early and I did quite well. And which they showed this set. They didn't cut anything. They make me look silly, or they could have edited it. They just showed it the way it happened. And I did very well, which I think kind of shocked some of the, not Wanda and Paige, but some of the other producers, like the Hollywood producers, where they knew, Wanda and Paige knew who the stand-ups were. And they're like, there's just like some of these guys that you don't really know are like super good at this thing. And they were really cool about like getting us in there and getting us shine. And so afterwards, I was like, I'm gonna go smoke weed in California. And they're like, you can't. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. And because there were people already smoking a cigarette, and they just went, okay. And so I just went out there and smoked weed. And then I figured out they had a PA that just kind of followed me around to make sure I wasn't, because once I was done, I was like, I don't really want to be on camera or any, you know what I mean? I wasn't there for the
Yeah.
reality show. I forgot about that aspect. I really did. And once I was in there, I was like, oh, well, we're, let me explain it a little better, is that I forgot about the show aspect of it. Is I got
Yeah.
in my head about the contest aspect that they vaguely presented as, which it's not really. But I needed to think that day to block out certain things. And then I was also like, I'm not going to act a certain way. I don't really care to, I'm
Mhm.
not going to fight with anybody or any of that stuff. Like, all I care about is just being really funny when I was on stage, and I was. So then I did notice the people that were being dramatic and like kind of over the top, the camera would follow them around.
Of course.
And then I held mine together. They announced it. I didn't get through. They showed me beautifully. They didn't make me look bad at all. It was like very nice. But inside, I was like, this is, I've never admitted this. This is so funny to admit on a recorded podcast. But like the competitor in me, and it was like a nice realization after I went through this little thing that I'm about to tell you about, that you're like, oh, you got to be careful what you point your competitiveness at, because like some things aren't competitive in nature. So when we try to make them, then you're always going to be frustrated. And some things you're just like, yeah, we can make this. This is actually kind of healthy. So afterwards, my wife picked me up, and we're just like driving. I remember we're on like Sunset, about to turn on Fountain. And I'm just, it's like I lost a ball. I look back on it. It was like I was probably like this 28, 30-year-old man who had just lost a ball game like a 12-year-old, was probably like how I was just like, it's like I don't like I was so good, like when I was supposed to be good, I was like so good. And like my whole thing, my plan was when I quit college to do this, and I told my parents that if I'm not where I'm supposed to be in 7 or 8 years in stand up, that I'll quit and I'll become a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is like well past the 7 or 8 years, and I didn't have to quit. I was well past where I should have been, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just like, I said to my wife, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm just gonna go be a firefighter tomorrow. But I was just like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't like the way it works. Having this real, just real whiny baby moment. And she's love of my life and very funny too. And she goes, "Oh, honey, I don't think you can be you're like too old to be a firefighter now." And I just like started laughing. I was like, I am. Like, I can't, you got to do all this stuff. And they don't want, like, yeah, they just don't let you, like, okay, we'll let you be a lieutenant. Like, you're right. I can't do
Skip
that's
over.
I was like, And then I got mad because I was like, now I have to be a stand up. God,
Yeah. I'm so glad she pointed that out to you.
It did. I mean, just went from being like, having a little fit to being like, I'm being probably childish. And you're also right. I've really worked myself into a hole here with what I have to do in my life. So I don't think I've ever talked about that on the podcast. She loves telling that story. So I don't know if she's told it on the podcast.
Yeah, she was on last week and she told the same story. It checks out. It connects. Oh man. Oh, okay. We got that's amazing story. First, really dumb question. And why didn't you go with Willie Wayne?
Not my name.
Is your name Billy? It's not William, right?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Billy Wayne Davis. That's super cool. Speaking of your name, when's the last time you Googled yourself?
Like Googled my name.
Mhm.
Oh, I haven't done that in a while.
Well,
I mean, marketing wise, I should do that more just to know how they're promoting me now that but
well, you
I'll tell you
shouldn't
what I
because
did
you're
do.
also a murderer. You know
Oh
this?
no, I learned that. Listen, I've heard I get the updates from Google when something mentions your name and
Yeah.
so I'll get those. Also, I knew about that already because there's a great podcast called In the Red Clay, and it talks about the Dixie Mafia. And I was listening to it. What's great is you let them all come out, and then if you drive like a lot, like travelers do, I was listening to it all, and I was like, this is great. And then they just described this awful person, and they're like, and his name was Billy Wayne Davis. And I was like, oh. And my first thought, I was like, man, I was like, I'm gonna play this dude. And then you start listening to it, and you're like, he is really awful. This is
This is a
not
sick dude. This is a
this is
sick dude.
I emailed the dude that did the podcast because I was like, because he did a really good job coming to the South and kind of getting the nuance of it right, because a lot of people get it wrong. So there's like some weird, complicated parts of the South that he really kind of nailed. So I was like, I sent him this thing saying, hey, man, this is incredible. And then he replied, he's like, man, seeing your name in that email was real weird at first. We're like, what? I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I guess, yeah. He's like, yeah. I was just like, is it the dude? Because the guys was still alive for a while, I guess. So
Yeah,
but
it's pretty
I'll just
crazy.
talk. Yeah, if you ask me one question, I'll talk for a while.
That's exactly what we want.
Okay.
We've had a few we've done how many episodes, Abby? 150, give or take. And everyone's been great, but there are a few people who are really, because we're a music podcast mainly, and there's been a few musicians who are really good at what they do, but you get them on camera, you ask them a question, even a silly question like our dumb shit. It's one word, it's tough, it's pulling teeth. Man, we love having comics on this fucking program. It's so different.
Just get just get them to hold their instrument while you're talking.
That's a good idea.
And then they feel safe.
That's their
a lot
shield.
of it.
Yeah.
Their baby blanket.
Yeah, it really is. They're like,
I went shield.
Because like that is you're right, because I'm friends with a lot of musicians and it's tedious. It is tedious being friends with them sometimes. Same with comedians. Don't get me wrong. We are not a super easy bunch either. But it is weird to see them, like when they get the instrument on, like this different thing happens, and when they take it off, you're like, oh, you went from somebody that would like start a fight to someone that would lose a fight, like when you took it off. And they're like, yeah, kind of. That is a good way to. So maybe that's like if you just be like, hey, could you wear your thing, and then you ask them questions, and then they're like, never.
Can you hold drumsticks like this? Rub your temples. Do you play an instrument?
No,
Not at all.
Not really. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. To get the music stuff out of the way, what music did you listen to today?
Today?
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, interesting. I listened to the new Spider-Man, the
Spider-Verse.
Metro Boomin.
Oh, okay.
That record is it's just kind of been on because we listened to it the other day. My son went and saw the movie, and then there's a bunch of rappers on that album that I was like, hey, I like this. And then we listened to it, and it's really great. So that's been on. And then, oh, I know. That's why I couldn't pop in my head. There's a Jack Johnson has like this this reggae kind of record, dub record that just came out. And it's not what you think it's going to be. I don't like the first time I listened to it. I think when you go in with I didn't know it existed, and it just popped up on my Apple Music thing, and I was like, oh, well, I dig both of these things. It's like Willie has a reggae record, and it's one of my favorite Willie records. It really so. And then I listened to it the first time, and I was like, I don't love this. But then I realized I listened to it again, and I was like, oh, I like it. It's just not what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a lot of what that dude does anyway. Jack Johnson's like kind of irreverent and a little messing with people at all times. So listen to it twice if you're going to listen to it, because I'm glad I did, because the first time I was like, huh. And then I realized as a grown up, I was like, oh, I had expectations. It's like if you watch a trailer and it has nothing to do with the movie, and then you go watch the movie and you're like, I don't like this. And you're like, well, that's why. It's because it's not what it said it was going to be.
Yeah, expectations. That's what leads to frustrations. So I hear you. Jack Johnson, we're coming for it.
It's kind of fun. It's light and fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Abby, what did you listen to today?
I don't know that I listened to anything today.
That is
honestly.
bananas.
I know. I always have something on, but I'm so focused today.
Focus on this interview. You were like just listening to his stand-up, Testify, his new-ish record, right? That came out last year?
I mean, at the end of last year, so yeah,
Yeah.
this year,
All
yeah,
right.
you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This Hebrew calendar. Speaking of Hebrew calendar, have you ever been to a bar mitzvah?
yeah, a couple of them. Yeah.
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 I dropped my pen. Um, can you do a British accent?
No, not enough to be like do it. You know what I mean? Like if I could, I would do it right now. So and then like I can't. So I would say no, I can't.
I figured if you could, you would jump right into it. You would respond in a snarky Cockney accent or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not on command. Yeah.
Okay, when's the last time you had cotton candy?
I don't know. I've had those
Wow,
cotton candy grapes a lot. I like those.
those are good.
Wait,
Ever
what
had
are
shit?
those?
You don't know what
What?
those are?
No.
They're grapes that taste like cotton candy.
Yeah, well, the farmers are playing God and they're
What?
they've
Why?
Farmers are playing God. Yeah.
they put I don't know, I think it's terpene. I don't know how they do it. And they make these grapes and they're the green grapes.
They plant the grapes in cotton candy and they infuse in
Well, I'm sure
earth.
it's terpenes is how they have to do it because cotton candy is not like a natural thing you can put in there. So they put it in there and it's grapes. They look, feel, everything's like a grape, and then you eat it and it tastes like cotton candy.
I forgot
What
you're
is
a
the
farmer
flavor
too.
of cotton candy? It's just sugar.
It's like a flavor of sugar. You know what I mean? It's not just like if you just ate sugar, it doesn't taste like cotton.
Yeah,
Doesn't taste like cotton candy.
we
You know
know
what I
how
mean?
it works. We're saying like, where does the flavor come from? That
I
specific,
guess
because
in
it's
that
so
when you
specific.
spin it,
It's like carny saliva and
yes, it
sugar.
is
Yeah,
knowledge. Yeah, there's wisdom.
and a little
Wisdom
bit
in
of
this.
this brings me to a perfect segue for the next question. Have you ever tried PCP?
Not that I know of.
Oh, that's how I know it's a good question when Abby sinks. You don't drink though. You're a sober man, right?
Yeah, it was 10 years in March.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm 2 years in February this past February. So
Yeah.
hell yeah,
Hell yeah.
bro. What we got next? Last time you had McDonald's.
Last week on the road,
What did you order?
because I quit eating sugar. I don't eat processed sugar.
So no cotton candy.
So that's probably why I don't have the cotton candy. And the only thing I can order straight off the menu at McDonald's is just like chicken nuggets with no sauce. Someone was like, "Oh, you can get packs of mustard," and I was like, "I just eat the chicken nugget. It's just fine." Like, because it's like sometimes it's tough when you're on the road. You just like, I just need something quick so we can keep going. And then everybody else is like, I'm just gonna eat goo and stuff. And you're like, oh, I used to do that too, and I just can't anymore, and still have all the energy I need. And now, yeah, I just ate I ate like 20 chicken nuggets. They're still great. I don't know. It's just like salt and chicken. It's pretty great.
McDonald's. So no McRib. Okay. Either or question. Billy the Kid or John Wayne?
Billy Kid.
There are no wrong answers on Bothering the Band, but that is the right answer.
Yeah.
So thank you. Have you ever had caviar in Alabama?
No, but I have had sushi in Alabama with Butterbean, the fighter.
Oh,
So
that's fun. When was this? What year?
I don't know what
Yesterday.
year. I mean, it was me, Ralphie May, Butterbean, and his wife.
Wild.
We had sushi in Birmingham, Alabama, which it was a man, that was probably 13 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. Now I think about it, because it's like very early in me even touring. Because I remember sitting there going like, thinking like I've chosen the right path for my life, where I'm like on a Sunday afternoon, I'm having sushi with the fighter Butterbean, and then fucking Ralphie May in Alabama. We're having, which is funny, just that there's sushi in Alabama is funny.
Oh man.
And he was telling crazy stories that I would not repeat. It was,
Oh, Dells. Is Butterbean still alive?
yeah, he's doing stuff with Jackass now. So he lost a
Okay.
lot of weight. He looks good. You
Good for
know,
him. Good for
he
him.
is a good dude. He was like, I mean, as far as like, you know, the kind of redneck white trash world champion dude can be.
Sushi Alabama sushi aficionado.
He owned a great barbecue restaurant outside of this lake outside of Birmingham that was really, I don't know if he does anymore, but we stopped by. It was good.
No.
Shout out Butterbean if he listens.
He's a big listener.
He might be. You
He's
never know.
he's calling in right now. Okay, so would you rather have to own a raccoon forever or live with Jeff Dunham forever? Also, do you know where this question comes from?
Yes, that's from my one of my sets.
It's from a Conan set.
Yes.
I'm sure you use it other places, but that's how I know.
Yeah, that's why I said sets, because I was like, I don't know exactly where I did it. Honestly,
Raccoon or Dunham?
what kind of like where are we at raccoon wise?
Like in the age where you live, what are you talking about?
Like, is it kind of is it like a house trained? Is it like a domesticated raccoon, or is it like a wild raccoon?
It's amped up on cotton candy.
And PCP.
I'm gonna go Jeff Dunham. That's fine. We can write
It's
jokes.
fine.
It's not gonna. He's gonna. I mean, he'll get over. He'll see the set, and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "I'm not wrong," and he's like, "You're right. You are right. You're not wrong, but you shouldn't." I was like, "It's funny," and he's like, he can't argue once I get it, because I'm like, "What? It's funny," and he's like, "You're right," and then we'll get over that, and then I'm like, "Let's write some awful jokes, and we'll make the puppets say them. I like it. Let's do it. We'll live." One time this is funny. This may be why I did that joke. Is I never put this together, those two things together. Well, that's why I done that joke on network television. Is he made me late for a show one time because he was playing the Tacoma Dome, and there's so much traffic getting in the Tacoma Dome that I was late to my show, getting to some shitberg fucking bullshit show. That I was just like, God damn it, Jeff Dunham. So I would still be a little like, when I moved in, I would just be like, hey, I'm still probably mad about the,
involuntary traffic. Okay, this just made me think of this. You're out on the road a lot. Are there any comedians from like 90s, 80s that you are surprised to cross paths with on the road in like a Vegas or a Reno or a Branson or some shit like that? That you're like, oh wow, Sinbad is right there.
I mean, there's probably a couple that I'm not thinking about where I was like, whoa, living in Los Angeles for 10 years kind of like makes that blurry. Okay, I remember, this is cool. There was a show called Set List for a while, and it was like they would give you like a topic and you would have to do stand up about it. It was a kind of improv-ish, but it wasn't improv. And one night when I'd first moved to LA, I'd been there before and stuff, but I'd been there a couple weeks, and Ari Shaffir was standing over here, and I get a text from him because we're just standing in the back of the room watching people do this. And he goes, look to your right and left. And to my left was Drew Carey.
Okay.
And to my right was Robin Williams.
Whoa.
And then Ari was on the other side, and we're just standing there, and like me and Drew were just kind of like, and he's really sweet. Like, I didn't know at the time how awesome and just like kind of down to earth that motherfucker is. He's like perfect for the process. Like, he's truly a wonderful dude. I didn't know at the time though. He's Drew Carey standing next to me, and then we're just like, but at that moment we were just standing in the back of the room like comedians. So that's kind of where all our heads were at. And then we're just back and forth. And then that was like one of those moments where I was like, oh, LA is like, this is going to be different because we're all kind of, they're doing better than us, but we're still here on like a Tuesday doing
Still
these
comics,
things.
yeah.
We're still doing these things, and they still like just being like, do you see that shit? And I'm like, do you see that? That kind of, yeah, it was like, it was interesting to see, like, it made me feel nice too that they were just like, oh, because I was already just in the back naturally, just be like, we get out of the way. And then you're like, oh, that's where they would come too, because they want to do the same thing we're doing. And then, so there's been moments like that. I'll tell you a funny one that has nothing to do with a comedian, but it describes how special the Comedy Store really is.
Are you still in LA?
Yeah, I live in LA.
Okay.
Yeah. My wife's a writer. She works in, well, not right now, but she's, they're on strike, but she writes a lot. And yeah,
She's
that's
picking up a lot of work right now. She's a scab.
Yeah, it's perfect time right
She
now.
went behind
She's
the
not
pickup
that good, and she wasn't in the union, and they need I'm like, get it, do all the writing. No, but yeah, we live in LA. But this was one of those nights early when I moved here, and I don't work the Comedy Store a whole lot. That might change soon, but I do like it. It's fun. I do the road a lot, so I've never pursued getting passed real hard at any LA clubs. Man, I went right into comedy talk. Sorry about that. But this night,
Hey, we are not comics, obviously, but we have some friends in the same world, and we love it. We love that inside baseball shit.
what is special about the Comedy Store is it's on Sunset in that area where it is like that. It doesn't matter what night of the week, there is an energy in that part of town on Sunset in Hollywood. And you're just like, whoa, there's people don't go there to chill. And but so it was like a slow night seemingly in the OR, and I'm sitting in the back of the room, and I forget who's even on stage, and there's maybe 20 people in the whole room. And the glass door comes off of Sunset, and there's these stairs, and the door opens, and no one looks, and I kind of see, and Bobby Brown comes walking in with a drink in his hand, just street drink, is because it wasn't a glass from the Comedy Store or anything. It was just wherever he was at before. He had his drink in his hand, and he came in, stood like right next to the stage. No one but me noticed it. Maybe probably another dude over here is just kind of like, whoa, this is crazy. And then Bobby Brown just kind of like laughs loud to get noticed, because it wasn't when you were supposed to laugh at all. No one even turned. No one. It is just me. And I was just this weird show. He doesn't know I'm watching him. He's trying to get the attention of the guys in the crowd. I guess because he just wanted to do like, hey, it's Bob Brown. And be like, I'm famous. Huh?
Yeah, attention.
So he did the laugh again in an inappropriate time. He did a sip of his drink, rattled it again. Whoever's on stage is doing their bits. The crowd's just into it. No one notices this very famous man right here. And then he just turns and kind of like does this, like to himself, and then walks out, and then keeps walking down Sunset with the drink in his hand. And I was just like, this is, of course, crazy. This is
Welcome to Hollywood. That was your first night.
It was that part of town is always like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to LA and you want to be like, I want to see some like Hollywood shit, you're like, just go hang out at the
You know where
Commons.
he went, right? He went to the Saddle Ranch to eat and ride the
No,
bull.
he took a right. He didn't go left. He may have been coming from the
He was
Saddle Ranch,
coming from the Saddle Ranch.
but that's what's also intriguing because there's not a lot down that right where he goes to the right. So, and I didn't see him come walking back by. So he did come from, maybe it's the Saddle Ranch. You're right. It might have been
He was
because he
riding
did
that
take a
bull
right.
right there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he got in his car and drove off. Who knows?
Oh man. Bobby Brown. That is wild.
It was, that's a very Los Angeles comedy story. Another one that's not mine to tell. This comic, Rob O'Reilly, was doing the show in this back of this Russian vodka bar. And it's a pretty good room to do stand up. It can be awful. And he's doing crowd work. And then he looks at this dude and he's like, oh, you look like fat Matt Damon. And the guy goes, I am Matt Damon. And it was Matt Damon, like, you know, with weight on him. And Matt Damon's like a cool, funny dude. Like, he's like, everyone thought, even including him, he's like, that's the funniest shit. And I was like, yeah, it's like Fat Damon. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. One time I saw Steve Kerr jogging in Orlando, Florida, and I did something similar to my buddy. I go, hey, that looks like Steve Kerr. And he goes, it is Steve Kerr. And we go, hey, Steve. And he says, hey, and he keeps jogging. And that was my Steve Kerr moment. But he wasn't fat.
Oh, I was hoping he was like a little overweight. That's what I thought that had something. I was like, oh, is he fat?
He was very fit. He was jogging before a game, before a Houston Rockets Orlando Magic game. Are you a sports guy?
What's that mean?
Like, do you like a particular sport or team?
I was an athlete. So I don't, I mean, I have these teams that I'm like fans of, but I don't follow them every day. It's just kind of keep up with like, oh, but I like watching the games.
That's a great answer.
So yeah, I love going to sports game, like sports events. Grew up. My dad's a football coach. So.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. We were saying do you know a comedian named Luke Null? You know that guy?
Maybe.
Plays the guitar. We were saying to him, we are big sports fans until you meet like a really big sports fan. We're like, Abby and I consider ourselves big, like basketball. I'm a baseball. She likes football. And we've all been there before. We're like, yeah, I like sports. And then you meet someone who's like, and it was all about the fucking stats and shit. You're like, I don't know that. I don't know who the third string like right fielder is on the Yankees. You know, like fuck.
Yes. I think I'm also like, I played baseball. Like, that's what I played the longest. And I've learned that I enjoy going by myself because I'm a little much because the way I watch it is different, I guess, because I see a lot more than, because I play a little more and didn't. And I found that me just being like, watch this and do this and then this, and people are just like, I just like to watch the game, just see the hitters. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I was just like, well, they moved to third baseman up, so they were going to probably pitch outside. And the guy's like, I don't care. And I'm like, you're right.
I only go for their butts, their hunky butts.
I like the butt part. There's a lot of slow time too, so like I enjoy every part of it. You can see their face. I've been told a lot by ladies that they like baseball players, and they're like, you can see their faces. Same with soccer players. So, and then some of them don't know about the cup situation, which is always fun. So they're like, wow. You're like, sure.
And that's just my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where's the weirdest place you've been recognized?
What do you mean, like, weirdest?
Like not after a show, not around a club, maybe even not in a place I don't want to give you too many rules, but have you ever been like, I don't know, on the beach in like Hilton Head, South Carolina, and some lady came up to?
Oh, I know where a cool. It it was. I was in a dispensary in Denver, Colorado, and I handed the guy my ID or whatever, and he just like looked up and he was like, "Wait, are you?" And I was like, I was so confused. I was just like, "What's he?" I was like, I thought he's kind of like being weird or just like being a dick. And he was like, "Are you DB Billy Wayne Davis?" And I was like, sure I am. You know what I mean? Because just kind of being funny or whatever. And he was like, "Whoa, it is you." And he was listens to podcasts a lot. So there's like several that like I'm on regularly that he was like, "You're like my favorite person on there." And I was like, "Oh," but he just recognized it from my ID. And I started talking. He was like, "Whoa." He's like, "You look way different than I thought you would." I was like, "Yeah, I get that a lot. I get."
Oh man.
And then he hooked me up with a bunch of weed too. That was pretty cool. But that was like that's probably the weirdest. The way he recognized
The
me was
way,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
The way. Man, I just had to say because I could really use some right now. You're so lucky being on the West Coast and Denver. It's so easy to get weed.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Florida and it's real tough.
So you got medical now, kind of.
Yeah, but you got to jump through a lot of hoops and you got to pay a lot of money like on the regular.
Oh, really? You don't just
Every
do the
7 months.
That's right. I knew it was something like
Oh
a
man, that's
crazy.
so corrupt.
Yeah, it's very
That's a
corrupt.
scam. Don't do that.
And I mean, I know people who do it. Sometimes I'll hook it up with some edibles, but I just don't want to do it. You got to go to the doctor every time. I'm like, come on.
No, don't. No, that's too much. That's too many hoops because that's not even.
Yeah.
But the black market in Florida is always like pretty good.
I know, but I'm too old. I'm a dad. I can't. I'm not like.
All right, let's figure this out. You don't have to say their name or anything, but like, who's your friend that you talk to on the regular that would know? Did
Of
someone
a
come to mind?
connection.
No, yes.
Um,
And don't call it a connect. It's weed. We're not. You're not. You're not in
weed
Europe
dealer.
smuggling heroin. We're
Not
not.
PCP.
It's
Oh,
not.
dude.
It's cannabis. It is. You're just. It's not a connection. You're just like a dude that has some plants that you would like to smoke as an adult.
Honestly, man, the other half of this pod would know more than I would. Again,
Well, there we go. Okay, then you'll have this conversation after it says this meeting has stopped. And it's especially do you live in Orlando?
no, I'm in South Florida.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, if you live in Orlando, I think you just walk outside and say it and someone will have it.
Yeah.
That place is dangerous.
I'm so happy you say that because I lived in New York for 10 years and people who had never been to New York were like, yeah, what's New York like? Is it dangerous? And I was like, Orlando, way more. Like I would
I
rather be
feel
on the street
yes.
anytime in the Bronx, any time of the day in New York City or night by myself in Orlando on a
No,
suburban block. It's the most dangerous.
it is. That is a yes,
So happy you say that.
100%. I live in Los Angeles, and there are parts of Los Angeles I shouldn't go to certain times of day. Other times of day, it's fine. But in Orlando, there are just the areas. The city is very unsafe as a whole.
And at a certain moment in the evening, you're the only person around. Like, so if you're just walking or like, it's just you're the target. You're the only one to rob or fuck with or anything like that.
Yes, there is. See, there in St. Louis are the only two places I've been offered crack cocaine. Just like being, just I was just existing. I wasn't like like smoking a cigarette, looking hungover. So you know what I mean? I was like, one day I was like walking from a nice hotel. This is in Orlando. Walking from a nice hotel to the 7-Eleven, which is like a block, and there's like a sidewalk. and I'm walking on the sidewalk, and this dude rolls up on a bicycle, and he was like, "Yo, you need crack?" And I was like, "Really?" And my first thought was I looked at my whole self. I was like, "Am I?"
It's the vibe you're giving off.
Yeah, well, that's what my first thought was like. This is I've attracted this somehow. And then I looked and I was like, no, there's nothing about me right now that screams that guy's looking for crack. I was like, this is some Orlando shit right here. Is like
So
people
happy you say that.
I can tell you which 7-Eleven that was too.
Did they have Cuban
It's
sandwiches?
the indoor outdoor one on 50 and like
that I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
going from a nice hotel and you're walking to a 7-Eleven, it's that indoor outdoor one.
You're right.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
that is that's so yeah, that is because I was just like, it was like 10 in the morning too. It wasn't, there was like everything pointed to just being like, this is like it's weird. And then I went back to whoever I was working with. I was like, yeah, they just offered me crack outside.
Here, I got
Mhm.
you some.
And they're like, did you take it? And I was like, no, I don't buy. I was like, they're like, we're just kidding. I was like, but I was like, and then I had to like turn down crack and then still go to the 7-Eleven because I was like, I was like getting some donuts or whatever. But you're just like, that's Orlando. And then the next time I was in Orlando, we were shooting this kind of documentary thing I was hosting. And we went to one of those, the area where there's like amusement parks. It's like almost amusement park. Guys.
I'm assuming you're talking about iDrive.
International Drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's like one that we were there and the cop. So we pull out, and I think our producer found it was like easy to get some like good B-roll and stuff like that. And then we could do these, it wasn't super crowded, but when we pulled up and there was like two cops just sitting there, and we're talking to the manager. I was like, what happened? He's like, oh, two people got shot here last night. And we are like, what? How? Like, how do you get shot at the amusement park? And they're like, there's like two families, one of them, and they just pull guns and they're shooting each other. And I was like, well, why are the cops here? And they're like, well, it's just like, not the, we've had this kind of thing. It happens.
It's every Tuesday. It's on the Ferris wheel. He did
they
get
not have
opposite.
a clear answer. Yes, it was like, okay, all right, this is not great.
Oh man.
And that's what I remember being like after we heard that. We're walking away with the crew, and I was like, last time I was here, someone offered me crack. And now I was like, this place is crazy, you guys.
Orlando's pretty dicey.
And then we got back to the hotel, and I found some weed because someone in the hotel had it. And the crew was like, how'd you find that? I was like, it's Orlando. It was really easy. And then we watched the local news, and it was we were all just like, this is nuts. This is nuts.
Oh, that makes me, it's bad that makes me happy. I think it's the solidarity because unless you've experienced it like yourself or you've lived it like Abby and I, again, everyone's like, oh, Orlando, it's you're by the beach or near the beach and there's Disney. And you're like, let me drop you off at that 7-Eleven at 2 a.m. and we'll talk.
It is. No, well, you're right. Because in the way certain people experience it is like in this peripheral, like airport to like that little bubble around Disney, into Disney, back into that like kind of like brand bubble, and then back to the airport. And they're like, it's Orlando's kind of nice. And you're like, oh, it is. It'll kill you. Orlando will kill you.
Orlando is why they stopped putting rental, like anything on rental cars that said rental car on it, because if you rent the car at the airport and you drive yourself to that bubble, when people are getting stuck in traffic, they're getting carjacked.
Wow.
And so they stopped putting like stickers on there, like the license plate used to say rental on the bottom.
Yeah. And same with at the mall. At the mall, they would get either carjacked or broken into. They'd watch you walk into the mall. They knew your fucking luggage was in the trunk. There you go. Bing, bang, boom. Man, let's move to Orlando.
That's organized crime right there. That's not opportunity where they're like, hey, they're just sitting there. I don't know, on these.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're looking for laptops. Okay. Have you ever worn leather pants?
What do you mean? Like, I think I tried them on one time.
Tried them on, but not like worn them for an evening,
No,
or not like in your Eddie Murphy spinoff.
no, I'm just not. I don't move around enough
Yeah.
to really warrant.
Oh, this something you said about LA made me think of this. When you're around LA, you've been there long enough, but if this happens to you, where people assume you don't live there, assume you're from out of town, does that happen often because of your accent? Shit.
No,
No, you don't
there's
feel
like a
like
certain. I
labeled a
think. I
tourist.
think there's a certain vibe you put off if you lived here long enough.
Yeah.
And people are from so many places around the world that it's not. People are always curious, like where you're from, but they're never like he doesn't live here. They're just like, oh, he probably might. He of course lives here. He knows a lot. He knows how to, like, I don't seem. Probably the first couple of years I lived here, they were probably like, this guy does not. I just like certain little things of how the city works. Those things, those little cultural things.
And how do you feel about Silver Lake Cowboys? Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, I mean that's where that first house was. So we were turning into Silver Lake, where I was so mad. It is, well, it's interesting because I don't see it as much because I don't do the dress up thing. And then there's like a type of where it really kind of shocked me was I opened for Sturgill Simpson some years ago, played the Ace Hotel Theater, which is beautiful and amazing. And everyone played dress up. This is when he was doing Meta Modern. He was touring with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fun to see them all in their costumes. But me and my sister used to make fun of Nashville before it came to LA, to Silver Lake Cowboy.
Yeah.
It was in that little 5 spot kind of East Nashville before it became what it is, this nonsense bullshit today.
Before it went to Brooklyn and Silver Lake and Portland.
Yeah,
and shit.
it was. And my sister, who we used to live in Nashville, and she lived there a little longer than I did, so I would come in, and it progressively got sillier and sillier. Because at first it was just like, dudes doing this cool stuff. These people, just kind of like artists. And then we walked in this bar one night and I was like, whoa. And she was like, costumes. They're wearing costumes.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that is exactly what, like,
does that make it better or worse?
Worse to me. It's like, because what a lot of those dudes that they, were doing were like just going to like thrift stores, the vintage stores, or taking their grandpa's clothes and just like wearing it because they were like, also, I make $11. So there's like that kind of thing. And then the sound I'm going for. And then it's like any gentrified thing where it's like after that, it just explodes into something awful. So
it's a little watered down.
Or destroyed.
Okay. Growing up, do you remember the things that kids used to play with? They were paper and they were folded and you went like this. What do you call them, or what did you call them? Do you remember those?
I never called them anything. I don't know the name of them. There was just always some girl being like, okay, pick this, to this, okay.
You
to this
are
one.
a loser.
And this one says 8 kids with a brown-headed lady. You're like, okay.
Abby, tell them what it's called.
It's called a cootie catcher.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Learn something new every day. I don't remember it having a name either, but apparently the internet has spoken.
The girls who did it have spoken.
Yeah, that's who I trust. I was like, no, they probably told us then. We're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, gross. Get out of here with your cooties. I don't want to catch your cooties.
That one.
Okay, Puerto Rican food or Jewish food? They both have some heavy like starting lineups, and then they taper off, you know.
Well, that's what I mean. I was trying to, if you want to know, I was trying to say I was trying to figure out how to say diplomatically that neither are like my go-to cuisines because of kind of what you said, where it's like there's like both have a couple dishes that they do, and then the rest are just kind of like vague versions of pastries. So
Yeah.
It's the best description I have ever heard for that.
I'm writing that down. Vague versions of pastries.
Do you ever go to like some weird market and they're like, you gotta have this, and it's some dessert, and they're like, it's so good, and you eat it and you're like, this is like do you know about donuts? Like
Yeah.
like this is bread that you spilled sugar on. That's what you're calling this. This is what Civil War soldiers ate. And you're like, this is a delicacy. And you're like, no, you guys are just, you can celebrate donuts. You can.
Abby, you know what he's talking about? He's talking about Mundelbrot, which is it's not specifically, but
You know what's funny is everybody is thinking of their version of it.
yes, of course.
What they're doing.
Yep.
Oh, that's it. My grandma was like, this is, and you're like, it's not. It's not. It is bread. It's not sweet. It's dessert. Like, it's not.
That's how I feel about licorice and raisins and any of that shit where you're like, I know when you had nothing, this was everything to you. But now we have a million different types of Oreos and shit.
I love raisins.
You love raisins?
Even when I'm consuming sugar, I love raisins.
Man, you are a rare breed.
Like I prefer the oatmeal raisin cookie.
Wow. That is.
I know. See, I know. I
mind-blowing.
knew I was going to. It's such a weird. First of all, they have it in everything. I'm not alone. Yeah. I'm not rare. That is a selection that is everywhere.
I know. Own it though. Own it.
So, but it is also very funny that the reaction I get is people act like they're like, it's like, yeah. And like in my family, we just punch our grandmother in the face and people are like, God damn, dude, come on. But my defense is like, it's readily available. I don't have to ever go out of my way to get them. They're there.
Yeah, because people leave them at every like hotel in the morning.
You could say then double chocolate chip cookies then, because those are double everywhere. If you're going to use that for that one, that means that people are leaving twice as many chocolate chip cookies. Listen, I'm not saying I don't like chocolate chip cookies. I think that's the way people react.
You said prefer though, right? You said
I do prefer. I will 9 times out of 10 get the oatmeal when I'm consuming sugar. That is the fact.
You can say prefer, but I hate chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, I know that is. I saw it was visceral. You were just like,
I hate America. Butterbean is rolling over in his grave. It's just.
My wife thinks I'm insane. I'm like, oh, it's whatever. But I like an oatmeal. I also love an oatmeal cream pie too, if we're being.
Man, you know what I love? I love someone who sticks to their guns. That's what I love.
I like Nutty Buddies.
Well, those are good.
I've been off sugar for 40 days. If you can,
40 days.
I'm just having a weird moment where I'm like, I love these things.
Man, I hope we don't make you go off the wagon or whatever it is.
I'm not. I don't crave it, which is cool.
That is cool because that's one thing that's tough. I don't think I could give up cookies. Cookies are like giving
2
up
weeks.
food is 2 weeks. That's how long it would take.
Yeah. No, it's a fucking ride. It is a fucking ride for 2 weeks, though. It is because it's more. It's what I've realized, and I promised I wouldn't talk about this much, but it is fascinating. Because it's like my son makes fun of me. He's like, he loves South Park. He's like, this is like when the guidance counselor quit gluten. And he's right. It is fun. Like he'll catch me do it. I'm like, all right, you're right. But it's tied to your emotions in a way that I'd quit before and noticed it, and then went back and now this time I think I'm probably done for good. And because it makes my my moods are regulated, my energies are like a little more consistent. And it is wild how like I don't get super, I'll get mad still. You're still just like fucking, but then you're like, oh, it's just this, and this, and then you do. Whereas before you kind of carry it with you in this weird way. And then you're like, and when you don't have that in it, it's because I got curious the first time because I was exercising too a lot. And I was like, well, maybe that has something to do with it. And then this time I stopped exercising hard. And it's like, oh, it's
So you're telling me I get angry because I eat chocolate chip cookies?
you
I can blame it on that?
you stay and you probably go to a level higher than you should have and stay longer than you should.
It's fascinating.
I hate it. I hate it. It makes me angry, but then I handle it pretty quick once again. So it works itself out, but it is frustrating to be like, it's like when I quit drinking for 30 days the first time before sober October, is like 10 years before even that was a thing. I was just like, I'm going to give myself 30 days. And my life was so much easier and better in those 30 days that you, as a logic based person, you're like, I can't go back. It is obvious removing this did really, really help. Damn it.
Man,
So,
that makes me think, do I have to give up cookies and caffeine one day?
I still do. I mean, I do. It's not, listen, I'm still trying to work on my nutrition and how I eat properly. Because being a traveler,
It's tough.
it's a nightmare to have any consistency.
Yeah, I bet. Fuck. Can't even imagine.
So if you're at home a lot, you should probably just be like, I have 3 cookies. I'm like, oh, then we're different. I have a package. So,
Yes. You're talking to the right people where people are oh, I'm gonna be bad. I had 2 Snackwells, and you're like, I had 28 Toll House cookies, and half of them are raw. So.
Yes, that's how I get that. Yeah, exactly. My appetites are different. And so like, what do you mean you had to stop? You're like, I'm like, yeah, I had all the Fig Newtons I could find in the hotel last night. You're like, what do you mean? You're like, I went to every floor and I got all the Fig Newtons and I ate them all.
In all the vending machines. And I knocked on one door.
And somebody's like, oh, I bet you were fun when you drank. I was like, yes, I was. We were going until we couldn't, and then we do it again. Yeah, that's why we stopped.
Sometimes even Kobe had to retire, my man.
There's a tip of the hat. Yeah, moving on.
Okay. Abby's favorite question. BWD, do you follow us on Instagram? Booyah. You better. This is our way to shoehorn in. Everyone follow Billy Wayne Davis on Instagram.
That's a good way to do it. Maybe. Let me see. I'll do it right
now. It's just Billy Wayne Davis, all one word, no underscores or bullshit like that. Bothering the Band as well. Bothering the Band, no underscores or bullshit like that. Like, subscribe. This is where we promo shit. We're gonna get to your shit. Have you ever had to testify in court?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, he said that very ominous.
In his murder trial.
Well, no, it wasn't. No, that dude, he just already said he did it a bunch because he was already on death row. Yes, I have. And that's all I'll say.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm following you guys. I'm sorry. That's what Have you guys ever had to testify in court?
Not me.
Never had to testify. But never had to testify, which thank goodness.
There we go.
Oh man, what an honor. I can't believe it. I'm gonna call my comedy nerd friends and be like, Billy Wayne Davis is following us.
Tell them. Where are you guys at in South Florida? I'm trying to come. I want to do that Key West room.
Oh yeah, Tom Dustin's room.
Is that his? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to
Well, I
reach
know,
out.
yeah. Tom Dustin has a room. A buddy of mine, his name is Dean, does features there. I mean, that's real far south. I'm like 20 minutes west of Fort Lauderdale. Abby's more central Florida, but on the coast. Um, if you were to come near me, it'd probably be the new Dania Beach Improv.
Oh, okay. Is that like is like the Miami version? Is that the new Miami one? Kind of.
Well, again, it's like an hour north of Miami. And probably a better room. I've heard a couple people, I've seen a couple people there.
There's no possible way it's worse than that old Miami room. That
Oh, I
was
know what you're talking about. It was
the one with it was
what was the name of the town? It wasn't even in Miami. It was like in a different
Coconut
town.
Grove.
Coconut, yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, that place was a legendary. Like it was just lunacy. Holy shit! When I really look back, I was like, that is crazy. Because it was early in my career, so I just thought like, when you're young, you just think, well, this is how stuff is when it's crazy, right? And then you look back, you're like, oh, I was just there at like a really insane time. Like that's not normally. It's things weren't normally like that. So before I'll let you in your podcast.
We got a couple more questions.
Well, I'm curious about. So there's the West Palm Improv,
Mm-hmm.
and then
about 30 minutes south, there's Dania Beach, which is quote unquote Fort Lauderdale.
so the one in the Hard Rock doesn't exist anymore.
They rebuilt that whole facility. Now that Hard Rock is a hotel shaped like a guitar, and on the top they shoot like spotlights into the sky, so it looks like the neck of the guitar, the fretboard. And yeah, and I know they do like this sounds wild, but they do like Earth, Wind and Fire and Jim Brewer at that place,
No, it's that big room there. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. And they still have the clubs? There's like a dance clubs and stuff.
Yeah, without a doubt they do. I haven't been there, but the new Dania Beach Improv is super nice though. It's small.
No, that sounds so much better than that
Way
crazy
better.
room. Yeah. And I mean, we had fun there, but it's like, wasn't super. It was awful for doing stand up. It was like these. Yeah. It's pretty great for making money and all that, but we're just like, this is yeah. I would go in the mornings though. Oh, you want to hear a crazy? This is a fun story.
How will we say no to this? Like,
I forgot all about this.
Of course,
you know that there's a bar in the middle of that place, like in the middle of the casino. And it was open 24 hours. That bar was.
As it should be. Yeah.
That's what I thought too. And then there's like certain places you could smoke. Well, Ralphie, for a little bit, sometimes he would drink and then sometimes he wouldn't, depending on what he was working on or what he's doing. And we were there. We were like in South Florida doing like 3 weeks. We were there in West Palm Beach, and then we were there in Fort Lauderdale, and then we were there in Miami. Or it was like, whatever the order was. But we had been there for like, it was like in the middle of it. And so I was like drinking because I was like, we have been down here for a while. And so I was drinking, I was playing blackjack, and I would make enough to drink and then or eat on every day for free. And then I'd quit gambling. So I'd make $100, $150. It was a trick I learned pretty quick. And one night I'm drinking pretty heavy, just sitting by myself watching people. That was like one of my favorite things to do. And Dennis Rodman walks in with this group of people. And I was like, holy, this is why you stay up late. This is why. Like I was just kind of playing, like poker thing every now and then. And I watched him for 2 hours from like afar operate, and that's when I was like, oh, he's like nuts. Like he has like,
it's on a different level of nuts.
It was because he would get tired of people being around him and like shoot them off and then just kind of be by himself and then be like, why isn't people around me? And then like, hey, and then people come around him. And he did that. I watched him do that on again, off again for like 2 hours one night, where I was like I wasn't even drunk anymore. I was like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen.
What a reality show. Just a live feed of Dennis Rodman's life.
It was like it. I was kind of just smoked a whole pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? Just like, this is good. This is, and
Isn't
then
he doing a reality show?
He is now. It's produced by Billy Wayne Davis. He's just promoting it right now.
and then the next morning, I'm hanging out with Ralphie. He was like, "What'd you do last night?" And I was like, "I gambled a little bit, and then I drank." He's like, "Did you hook up?" And I was like, "Oh no, oh Dennis Rodman showed up." And he's like, "What? Why didn't you wake me up?" I was like, "It wasn't fun. It was not a fun thing."
It's like watching animals eat.
Yeah, it was not. If it would have been wild fun happening, but it was not. He was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Okay." I was like, "I just watched it." He's like, "Whoa." But he was mad. He was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "No, it wasn't." I got excited too. And then I was immediately like, this is what they don't show you on TV. Yeah. So that's a fun story to end on, right?
That's a great story. But I am going to ask, because again, we're a music podcast. I'm going to bring it back. Abby, did you know he did recorded an album at Third Man Records?
I did.
So we were just there.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a show in Nashville in April, and it was great. It was good old fun. And Nashville is the loudest fucking city I've ever been to. Especially, I mean, just that, whatever street that was. Couldn't hear my thoughts, but
They don't want you to.
no, they don't.
Yeah, no, that was the real thrill, getting to do that too.
It's fun being sober there though, and like people watching and just being like, oh yeah, look at those degenerates.
It used to not be like that.
We heard.
It was this really kind of grimy, kind of weird city full of creative people. And now it's not. You were there in April. You saw it.
It was fun, and it does have it has pockets.
It is fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm just saying it is like this weird old guy in me where I'm like, they kind of fucked this cool place up. But I guess that's what happens to everything. So
that's what happens with everything. Well, we can't end like that. But who's your favorite musician? We can't go from like great Dennis Rodman story, sad fucking Nashville story.
Of all time?
Yeah, do you got a favorite?
Of all time?
Sure. You can even name a couple.
Man, that is so hard. Like my favorite. Like the two that mean the most of all time to me are definitely like
Salt and Pepper.
Well, I mean, they were in one of the not the first, but one of the first CDs I ever bought was one of theirs. They're great. It's I would say Levon Helm and Johnny Cash mean a whole lot to me, just from storyteller kind of. And then John Prine I like a lot.
Yes. We had his son on the pod.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
I just like the way he's kind of irreverent. It's not what it appears to be. So that means Levon really tells a story in a way and Johnny Cash was in touch, and his whole thing to me was like, he's pretty open about his demons in a way that most people weren't. And I don't think people understand, like, for the times he was like really like, and he taught me at a young age. I liked him before he got hip again, which was like a cool thing, which is like this really cool thing to see happen, where it was like, oh yeah. And they're like, you've always liked him. I was like, yeah, I really have, since I was like, into music. But it was that thing you learn where like, oh, if you're not like aware of the art side, it will you. So like that's, even as a young man, like in my early 20s, going out in the life, like that was like an important thing that I think he taught me, just from who he was and the way he went about stuff. And then, the way he could tell a story. Simply, I think is like the Johnny Cash thing. And then I would say, honestly, Lil Wayne is really important to me. And because there's like records that you probably listen to that you're not, that you listen to a lot that you're not, like, I'm trying to think, like,
Carter 3. I love that record.
oh, the Carter 3 is a monumental, like,
So
part of
good.
my life. It's yeah, that was that was huge for me. And then I really like the Strokes a whole lot.
Nice.
I really, when I'm honest, like them and Portugal the Man. And I don't know why, and I should say this more. This is a fun music talk, is because I love listening to them, but I've purposely not looked into who they are, what they do, or anything anymore than I already have, is MGMT.
Oh yeah.
Because I love them for whatever concept they do each time or whatever it is. And it's like so musically wonderful. And I can put on any of their records and like it's like makes me whatever. And for whatever reason, I just remember jamming to their record and they weren't, and loving it and never looking more into them. And then
That's great.
later on being like, oh, I've never. And then I was like, oh, I shouldn't. I should just leave this the way. I mean, I might if they ever tour or whatever. I don't even know if they're even real people. So it's like they could be, it's like the Gorillas or whatever. It's like, so it's, but then I saw the Strokes uh at the Ryman. This was 15 years ago.
What an enviable show that is.
And I did never heard of the band that opened for them, and they were incredible. They were called the Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
And I was that I was like, oh, this, and it was a very Nashville show, so people weren't like rocking, and I was drunk and then ready to rock. And I really liked the Strokes. And then they had just this wall of strobe lights behind them that would just go boom, boom, while they rocked. It was one of the coolest. It was just loud as fuck. So I was like, and then he's always doing weird new stuff. So I really do like them a lot. And then my buddy Sturge, he's always fucking with people. I like that. People are like, oh man, he's like a good, and I'm like, he's a soul singer is what he is. So he can do he's going to do any genre very well because it's coming from his guts. So
we like that dude too.
I had to say him. He's my buddy, but sometimes I don't say him because I just figure it's assumed. So.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I appreciate you throwing in your buddy. You should tell your buddy to do our pod.
Shit, I should. He's got to do mine first.
Fair enough. Okay, what's next for Billy Wayne Davis? What does the future hold? Promote your shit.
I've got a cannabis podcast that I'm very proud of called Grown Local. If cannabis is your thing, you should listen. I have a co-host. He is a wonderful grower from Eugene, Oregon. I'm also about to
Grown Local.
That's the name of it. And then I'm about to start releasing podcast with Wayne Davis again, with revamped, with all the bells and whistles and all that. And it's a very conversational podcast with a lot of funny people. But the thing is, I figured out how the format I want to do, the kind of interview conversational thing, but with funny people, because that's who most of my friends are. But we can't talk about comedy. It's anything but comedy is what we're going to talk about. So, and I've done a couple of test episodes and people really dig it. And there's been a couple of times where, like, you just got to delve into, it's our job. So we just delve into it and we're like, nope, no, get back. get back to being why a
Yeah.
server is really fun, that kind of stuff. So
Oh, I like that one rule. That's fun, man. Oh, dude. Well, dude, this has been so much fun. That's our fucking show.
thank you for having me anytime.
We can't
It's
thank
been
you
a blast.
enough. Yeah,
Of
this
course.
has been a fun comedy geek bucket list for myself and Abby. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Father in the Band with Billy Wayne Davis.